thank you for coming tonight to our library program. My name is Jen Hoffman. I'm a community engagement librarian here at Monroe County Public Library. Before we get started, I just wanted to go over a few details. If you could keep yourself muted through the duration of the event, that would be great, so there's no sound feedback at all. If you have any questions for Tom and Perry, feel free to put them in the text chat and they'll get to them as they're able to and as time allows. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Jared Cheek, who's going to introduce our guests today.
Hi, I'm Jared Cheek. I work here at Monroe County Public Library, and we're very honored to have Tom Scharpling virtually joining us here at the library today. Tom is an accomplished writer, director, producer, actor, and radio show host whose show, The Best Show with Tom Scharpling, has been entertaining and inspiring listeners for over 2 decades now. He is also a national bestseller now with his new memoir, It Never Ends. And we're also happy to have Perry Shao leading the conversation today. Perry is a graphic designer, art director, musician, and the undisputed king of t-shirt collecting. We just have an hour, so we'll go ahead and let them get started. You can take it from here, Perry.
Sorry. Hey, hello. Hey, Tom. I don't see Tom.
I'm right here. I'm right here.
There he is. Wow, you look great.
Oh, thank you. So do you, Perry. But what else is new? You look great, and water is wet. The things that we just take for granted.
Are you done? You can keep going if you.
Oh no, I'm done complimenting.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you to Jared and Jen and Monroe County Public Library for having us. I guess we'll just get into it, Tom. We're here to talk about your book, which I have not read but listened to 4 times. I got the audiobook immediately, and as soon as I started listening to it, I gave the physical copy to a friend and said, read this right away. I'm listening to it. And so it was incredible. I don't want to repeat the same things everybody has been saying about it. So I'm just going to go into maybe a little backstory of how I was introduced to you eventually. First through The Best Show. So like I had a ton of friends who would always talk about The Best Show, and I'd be like, oh, I don't know that. I was listening to Howard Stern a lot. Typical story, I guess. I'm sure a ton of your fans, you know, their intro into being obsessed with the radio was through him. And basically I would hear about The Best Show over and over again. And I was 27 at the time, and I lived at a house with like 8 people. And one night it was just 2 of us, and my friend Kevin, who's from Jersey, was like, hey, do you want to listen to The Best Show? And I was like, oh yeah, I heard of that. Like, I want to check that out. That seems fun. And we turned it up super loud in our kitchen and like probably ate a bunch of junk food. And it was the first episode I heard was with Chris Elliott and Adam Resnick. And immediately I was like, who is this Tom Scharpling guy that he has these 2 people on that? I just could not believe. I don't know. It just blew my mind. I was like, this is the coolest show. First time listening. And so that was just like an immediate impression. And it was kind of like, I was kind of getting done with the Stern thing. And I hear The Best Show, and one time only, I just go, I can't miss this show ever again. It just hit me like immediately, the flow of it, the sense of humor, obviously the guests that you had on and everything, and it like blew my mind. And so that leads me to eventually being friendly with all these people who are fans of this show, and Jared, who's hosting this event right now. And so what I'm getting at is like, once I discovered that you even knew who I was, or that we had mutual friends or anything, it made me feel like I was already accepted into this like very, very cool group of people who I felt like Stern was this temporary thing that I kind of understood to a point, but you just accept most of what's going on because it might be all you have at the time, radio wise. And then the Best Show comes along and I'm like, I don't want to hear even another podcast. I barely want to listen to music. All I want to hear is you and John. And it just like literally just totally life-changing moment. And so thank you for that. I needed to get that out of the way. So
No, that's so nice of you to say. That's very sweet. And I'm glad you feel that way about the show. And I'm glad when it resonates with anybody. And there's so many aspects of it that I hope something works for somebody on it. But it's nice to know that many elements of it work for you, Perry.
Well, thank you. So I guess the point I was trying to make, my scrambled notes through all that, is that when I felt like accepted or something by this group of people, by you specifically, and John and whatever, it made me feel like I was starting to find out who I was more, finding myself, aligning myself with certain people. And so when you started writing, maybe even if it was just for papers or magazines and stuff, was there somebody or a group of people that made you feel like you knew where you were in the right place, you had to do this, there's hope for you to continue doing what you're doing? Because it's easy to get defeated. Everybody thinks that they're destined to do this thing they want to do, but some people know it for real, and obviously it's been working.
Yeah, I don't know. It's so hard to say because sometimes it feels like it's a defeat in its own way, but sometimes it feels like the greatest success I could ever have. And it's just, I don't know anymore. And I kind of can only do it for myself at this point, because it's like, I just kind of can't judge. I can't do it for anybody else. And it's just like, cause it's such a, it's a hard thing to keep going with sometimes. And so if I'm in my heart of hearts not truly happy with what it is, then it doesn't go past that. Then there's no reason to do it. But I've been very happy with it. And I'm getting happier with it lately. And yeah, it's just hard to know when you're in the middle of it, because it's like there's always another one next week. Like I do it, and then it's not like it's like, well, we did that. Now I can just sit back and kind of see what that was. It's like, no, there's another one 6 days away as soon as one ends. So it's fun, and I get all sorts of satisfaction from it, and it means a lot that people care about it, obviously, or if it's not obvious, it does mean a lot that people care about it. But ultimately, it's just like I got to constantly keep trusting my own gut with it, and so far I'm really proud and pleased with where we're at. And then doing the book, the way that ties into the world of the show and who I am in relation to the show, and all of that has just added another layer to everything. So it's just been it's such an interesting thing, because you don't sign up for like a 20-year commitment for the show. I would never sign up for that, but I signed up to do 1 week at a time, and then you turn around and suddenly you've done 20 years of 1 week at a time. So it's a weird thing.
Was I mute? I think I was muted for a second. Can you hear me right now? Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you.
Oh, weird. It said I was muted. I had to, anyway, sorry. Well, so when you were, I know you talked about when Rock Rotten Rule, was getting passed around and all these people started to find out about it. I mean, that had to be very like reassuring that you were, in the right direction, at least, that you're doing the right thing. So like, was there somebody or a moment where that clicked with a certain person that maybe you looked up to, or you felt like, oh, well, if they got it, then I'm doing it right or something.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely started with a small pool of friends. Like me and Worcester were the true closed circle with it, and we would just laugh at stuff, and we thought it was funny, and then we would do stuff in front of people, or when we did Rock Rock and Rule, we played it for people, and they really responded to it, and we just knew it was nice to hear that. But we kind of really, it was, if it was making the two of us laugh, we knew we were doing something right. So it's a very funny thing to think of how small that circle couldn't have been any smaller. But it was okay. It felt strangely like safe in a way, because somebody who I respected as much as anybody I've ever respected was laughing right along with me, and I was laughing at stuff he was saying, he was laughing at stuff I was saying. So there was a weird comfort to it that felt like it was okay, even if people said it sucked.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's like when you're in a band, not every band is good, but if the three of you or whoever's in the band like it, that's kind of, I mean, I know some people hope that everybody likes it, but really that's all. The satisfaction is just from doing it with those people. If they approve and you look up to them or trust their opinion or whatever, it feels good. And everybody, I feel like, at least with what I do too, anybody who jumps on board is like a bonus. You already made yourself happy, and maybe the one other person or the band or whoever, at least in my case.
And I mean, that's what was always appealing about music, especially whatever you want to call non-mainstream music, was that the best stuff could be a band that had put out 400 copies of their first record, and I felt like I could make a case that they were the best band on the planet at that time. And that was the appeal of this whole scene, was that you just didn't need everybody to co-sign a thing. If you and your circle were cool with it, then that's enough. You built your own world, and you could be happy within that world. Like, you didn't need to be judged by any other metric. And that really worked for me. And it was something that, it was just a very special time. And I'm glad that's kind of when I came up.
I think we're all glad that everything took you in whatever direction it took you. I can't get over the fact that I was listening to the audiobook for the fourth time, and I was like, I think I want to do it again, but like maybe next week or something. But it really is so good, and you get so much out of obviously every sentence was thought about, of course, but you can kind of really feel that there's no filler moments. I think the coin pusher thing was like so nice to listen to, for me. I don't know if there's nice is the word, but for me, it was like a really, I wasn't expecting any of the book to be like that. And then it happened, and it was really wonderful. And hearing it multiple times was still good every time. I wanted to, before we get to the obvious stuff that I want to ask you about the t-shirt business, I wanted to read you.
This was just a giant misdirect for you to finally get to ask me about t-shirts.
I'm avoiding it as long as possible. I promise.
Harry, you finally got me. You roped me in. Congratulations.
We don't have enough time for me to go.
Oh, I know that. With you and t-shirts, we can I don't know if there's enough bandwidth on Zoom for you to get everything you want to get out of me in t-shirts. But please, we'll get to the t-shirts.
We'll get to it at some point.
You'll get your fill tonight.
So I wanted to read you this quote. It's not from the book, but I wanted to see your thoughts on it. So for all of your obvious age, Mr. Caulfield, you still have a lot of growing up to do. Do you know what this is from?
What is it from Catcher in the Rye?
No.
What?
Uh,
I don't know. What
in,
am I? I'm not smart. I don't know these
yes,
things.
you are. You are the smartest. You might be the smartest
Well, you
guy.
need to meet different people then. I don't know what that's more
Well,
of
I agree with
judgment
that.
on your frame of reference. If you think
Um,
I'm super smart, you need to go to like a college and talk to people or something. I don't know. See, I even just said go. I don't even know if that's where you go to talk to smart people. In my world, that would be where smart people would be.
well, whatever you are.
What is that from? What is that
So
from?
this is so corny, but in 1982, a young man in Middlesex, New Jersey, wrote into, I believe, a newspaper about a rock critic.
Oh, what is the Perry? What are you doing to me here? This
Awful. This is. I know it's awful, but the point that I'm trying to make
You're
out of
digging
this,
through things I did when I was 13
well, I was
or
curious.
whatever.
You talk about it you talk about this period of time in
But
your book.
if this is what it takes for you to finally get to talk about t-shirts, sure, let's talk about t-shirts.
No.
It's like Price is Right, where you pull the thing up and it's just a giant pile of hay is what I got. No, of course. Let's talk about it. So this isn't a thing. I think I remember writing a letter because some rock critic hated something, and I wrote a letter to the paper. I think is that what happened? I don't want to
get into the article. The part that this quote specifically is just the way you spoke in this is so telling of the way that you talk on the Best Show when you're kind of trashing things.
So at a 13-year-old level.
However old you were, it was in 1982. But here's the thing. To me, reading that is comforting to me because.
So tell me who was I complaining about? I have no memory.
There was a rock critic in a newspaper who was trashing or he was a music critic who was trashing rock music, basically, screaming, whatever. The beat. He's like a guy still complaining about the Beatles being too scary or something. But the way that you wrote this thing to this critic, it was so satisfying. It was like when a caller calls into the Best Show and you just you call it for what it is, and nobody could disagree. And this person on the phone, every time I can't help but think, you have to know better. Like this guy saying this stuff about rock music, you have to know this. This sounds outdated and all that stuff. But to hear you say this quote, it's like reading your tweets or reading something from your book, but it's from 1982. It just made me so happy. And I didn't even want to go into the actual article or anything.
No, look, that's you're truly blowing my mind with this, Perry. So I do appreciate it. This is me reacting to having my mind blown.
I didn't even want to blow your, to me, it makes me happy because it makes me feel like people who have been following their own way and talking their own way for all this time. It was just very satisfying and it made me feel good. It made me feel like I've been on this kick lately about just being true to yourself and reading your book obviously drives that home so much. And when I read something like that, it just makes me feel good. It's like you're sticking up for maybe not the little guy really, but you're talking about the genres of music that were just popping up around that time and all that stuff. And you were just kind of like, you always hated seeing people getting picked on who didn't deserve it. And
well, look, I knew the Beatles. The Beatles were a downtrodden underdog organization, and they needed finally somebody to go to bat for them. And who better than a 12-year-old in New Jersey to finally stick up for the Beatles?
I guess that was the part that would have helped context-wise. There's other stuff besides the Beatles, but I like this version better. We'll stick with the Beatles.
Perry. Look, Perry, I'm just giving you the business.
It's hard, Tom. You're not saying intimidating, but you're the best. And
I could tell you who's not intimidated by me. Lisa Hardwick. You're not intimidated. You're looking at your phone.
So,
now you move boxes. How'd you do that? Now I'm intimidated by you. I think you have Zoom superpowers. So,
well, to further on the intimidation thing, I don't want to go into the Patti Smith thing because you've gone into it a million times.
Sure.
But I will say a moment I felt like I had was the first time I met you in person. And I'm not trying to keep making this about me, but I guess that's what I'm best at. Chris, my drummer, Chris Wilson, the great Chris Wilson, mutual friend of ours,
Absolutely.
Was talking to you after the Scharpling and Worcester show at Union Transfer. Was it 2015, I think?
Yeah, that would have been like probably the December 2015. Yes.
And it was my first time meeting you in person. I don't even know if you knew who I was or anything yet, but you were talking to Chris and you're like, oh, I'm working in the area maybe for a little bit. I'm working on something and I'll be in touch with you and stuff. And I did this thing where I go, don't try to make him laugh. Please don't try to make him laugh. Don't say something like, just say hi and nice to meet you. And you said you were working on something. And the first thing I could think of was that my friend who does sound for movies and stuff was working on a show called Animal Cops, Philly edition. And I said, oh, are you working on Animal Cops? Which is like a reality show about capturing wild, I don't even know. And it was one of those things where you went like, oh yeah, Animal Cops. And I was like, shh, I don't know if we could curse on here. And I just went, oh boy, you would have walked off the elevator in that conversation at that point.
I would have probably climbed up the escape hatch in the elevator.
It was just the most awkward. I feel like since then I'm like, I got to make it up to him. I got to fix this.
Well, Perry, you've more than made it up to me. First of all, it's a valid joke to ask if I'm working on Animal Cops Philadelphia. I would have said literally the same thing. So don't worry about that. And look at where we are now. It all worked out. It was the right thing to say.
Yeah, I think so. I'm going to ask you, usually people save the rapid fire, I think, till the end, but I want to do a couple quick questions that I was thinking about. In the book, you mentioned that you cry very easily at all the dumbest things. And that's one of the hundreds and thousands of things that you have said either in your book or before that I was like, oh my God, me too, of course. So I'll cry at like a Geico commercial with the gecko in it. Like if he's saying something sweet enough, I don't know what it is. I can't help it.
Sure.
There's any moment of like love or compassion in anything that feels cute or at least genuine by any means. But so during this whole quarantine and stuff, all the stuff we're going through, I was wondering, I was especially sensitive myself. What can you think of the last dumbest thing that made you cry? Or just the dumbest thing you have ever cried over?
Oh my God, the dumbest thing. I mean, look, getting choked up when you watch like Spider-Man 2 and then the people are like, you can't treat Spider-Man that way. And like the people with no power decide to stick up for Spider-Man. That takes the cake for anybody to get choked up over that. And that stuff gets me all the time. Like, that's what we're talking about here. Like, look, I don't know if literally a Geico commercial has gotten to me, but commercials like that have. Like, I've gotten manipulated. Yeah, I'm I'm a soft touch.
Also, another thing we have in common, prank calling Tommy G.
Oh, really?
Yes, which was a thing that my friends and I did. We prank called a bunch of people over time, me and various friends, but there was a period where me and a certain group of friends, we would drive to this diner and we would listen to New Jersey, I guess for us, 101.5. Is that what it was for you too?
Yes, it was New Jersey 101.5 was a radio station in South Jersey, Trenton. It was the broadcast out of Trenton, and was a station that proudly would tell the listeners, this is not New York, not Philadelphia, proud to be New Jersey. And it would just be, but then there's just a point where it's like, everything's going to be about New Jersey on this station, really? So then it's like every other call-in topic was just like, this tolls on the New Jersey Turnpike, it's outrageous, we got to get rid of the tolls. And it's like, you guys are never getting rid of the tolls, so just stop. The tolls aren't going anywhere. And then on the overnights, there was this guy, Tommy G, who tried to have one of those kind of a little more freewheeling call-in show, but with these topics. And he was just sitting there waiting for to prank phone call. And I would finish the best show, and then being the defective attention hound that I am, clearly would start calling a different radio show in the car driving home. And it really is a very character revealing moment that was where I was at. But Harry, it's so surprising and so not surprising that you called Tommy G also, because if anybody heard the show, you would just be like, first of all, it doesn't sound like the phones were particularly hopping, and they weren't. I got through on his show faster than people get through on my show. And we're not on like some massive, terrestrial radio station. And he also just sounded like a guy you could kind of play around with a little bit. And I would just see where the line was with making stuff up, and he believed all of it.
Yeah, I don't think he ever questioned if they were pranks. And he had a voice that sounded like a guy whose voice you would hear on like a Jerky Boys album or all the various prank calls. So a few questions about Tommy G. When you would call, did you feel inclined to do like a New York accent? Because we always felt like we slipped right into this accent to like.
Oh, now that you're saying that, absolutely. I think I would call up and be like, yeah, Tommy G, I just want to say it's really I'm listening to the show. I think you're really hitting on some stuff tonight. And just like, because then I think that also lulled him into a sense of complacency, because that was not unlike his voice. He first of all, the show had this cheap artificial echo on it that,
oh my God.
Yeah. Like his voice just had this completely digital, unreal echo. And he just kind of sounded like a guy like this, just saying, okay, let's see what who else is on the phones tonight. And we got, but the thing that made it justifiable for me was that he was seemingly nice, but had horrible views when you actually listened more closely. And you're just like, no, this guy's promoting, he's on the wrong side of issues.
Yeah. And
so
sorry.
No, go ahead.
If you tune in during the day, which I only did recently to discover how true this is, it is like full on like right wing, but whatever they can say on like a regular family friendly radio station. But I didn't realize at the time, because we would only tune in at night for Tommy G. And so I didn't realize how like it, now I feel much better about pranking him anyway. Not that I felt that bad, but do you, and I don't want to go on to this too long, but it really, hearing it in your book, I was like, that makes sense. If you're saying Trenton and I'm in Philly and you're on that side, the side of, where you're at in Jersey, it is perfectly in between, but my friends weren't listening to it besides the ones I pranked with. But do you remember, and I'm sorry, everybody listening, but I care about prank calls way too much. Do you remember the best prank phone call that you made? Do you remember any of the ones that you said? Because the topics he would dig
Oh,
so deep.
to him, the best one was when I said that. I think the best one was when I said I was outraged because I would always see the school bus parked outside the strip club, and that the school bus driver would clearly take the bus right to the strip club on Route 35 after he dropped the kids off, and that I thought that was offensive and outrageous, and he agreed that that was horrible. Or the time I said Robert Vaughn from Man from U.N.C.L.E. got into a shouting match with a fireman in a town over the hourly sirens that went off for whatever shore town it was. The sirens went off, and I said Robert Vaughn came out of his shore house and started fighting with a fireman, which I don't know if Robert Vaughn ever lived in New Jersey. I have no idea, but it just, and yeah, those were two really good ones. I remember also arguing with him about Santa Claus one time because he was mad that somebody had a lawn display where Santa Claus was being hung from a tree. And then he was making the argument that, and this is one where I cursed at him, honestly. I lost control and he hung up on me. He was making a case. He said, well, if I did a thing with a black guy on a tree, would that be a thing? And I said, well, the main difference is that Santa Claus doesn't exist and black people do exist, which is why. And then I called him like a effing whatever, and because he was being so willfully stupid, and it was such an ugly thing to argue just to fill radio time. So he can get bent, honestly, the more I think about him.
I never heard that, and I believe it 110%. The weird thing, to go back to the school bus thing, is my friends, we called during a topic about a school bus where the bus driver went home for the day, parked his bus, and there was still a kid in the bus.
Oh, well,
and
that's terrible.
Yeah, but my friend called and he was like, look, man, he just got back from spring break. He was probably stuck in Pismo Beach or something. Like, he made this whole thing. Mm-hmm. And Tommy G was like, I know. Like, he just agreed with it. But the
Pismo Beach, what is he, Bugs Bunny?
Pretty much that was the idea, I think. But
the only time I've ever heard Pismo Beach is right now, and Bugs Bunny from 85 years ago.
Well, that's why I told you my friend's prank call, not mine.
Yeah,
his is much better. But okay, I didn't even want to get on that long, but it is wild. It is wild to me. Another question is, you mentioned at some point telling the story about the bat fight in Toronto.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know if you want to save that story or not, but I do want to know. I immediately pictured actual bats, like the animals, flying into each other for some reason, and then it hit me like, oh no, he means there was people hitting somebody with a bat,
the baseball bat. Yeah.
So I didn't obviously I quickly realized that, but I thought you should know. Maybe next time be a little more clear that it wasn't just bats fighting.
Sure, no, I will, and I also probably along those lines, I'll also make sure I make it crystal clear that the people didn't have the power to control bats like Aquaman can control fish. They cannot control bats. I'll make that clear. Also, any other details you want me to clarify?
I'll send you an email about that further.
Thank you. No, there was a bat fight. I was in Toronto sitting at a cafe, and then these two guys were on the street, and one had a bat and was swinging it at the other guy. And then the other guy kind of caught the bat under his arm from the other guy when he swung it, and then got a hold of the bat and then started swinging. Got the bat from the one guy, started swinging it at the other guy. It's like your worst nightmare. You have a bat, you're about to beat someone with it. You lose control of the bat to the person that you were going to hit with the bat. And it's just like, you just want to go like, look, I know you want to hit me with the bat, and I know I was hitting you with the bat. Could we just end this cycle of ugliness right now before you hit me with the bat, even though I was in the process of hitting you with the bat. And it just was it felt like all of life boiled down to one moment.
Yeah, you don't want to be in a bat fight in Toronto.
No, well, if you're in a bat fight, make sure you don't lose the grip on the bat.
Okay, now I have a selfish question. If is unrelated to the book, and I'm sorry. And if you could remake the movie Nothing But Trouble now, who would replace the Dan Aykroyd role, and who would be the group that played the music group that would play?
Probably put Josh Gad in the Dan Aykroyd role.
That's pretty good.
And then what was the other question? What other part?
Who would be the musical group that would perform instead of Digital Underground and Tupac?
Oh, probably Hound.
That would be the scariest part of the movie.
They either put Hound or Refrigerator.
Okay, now we're gonna get into the other portion of this, which is the T-shirt stuff.
Okay.
So
I notice you're wearing a T-shirt that is not an official one. That seems like
I made it. There's a little bootleg.
That's rogue.
Okay.
It seems like you went rogue with that one. That's my parents' store, the tea bag. Still there in Berkeley Heights, New Jersey. If you have any kind of thing you need, any kind of imprinted sportswear, you go there, and you get your T-shirts.
So a couple years ago in Central Park, Kurt Vile was playing, and I did this thing where I made these iron-on T-shirt designs, and people could come and pick the shirt, and they could pick the design, and we did it in person. And you were there, and Terry T came up to me and said, "Can we get a picture of you and Tom?" And I go, "Of course. Why would Tom want to take a picture with me?" and I was stoked, of course. Now I have this picture that I probably won't put on the internet again for like 5 years because I've abused it too much. But I didn't realize, and this is an assumption, but the reason that you were excited to even maybe what I was doing was because I didn't know that your family owned a T-shirt shop until I read this book. I didn't know to what extent this, and obviously I'm making it more than it is, but I didn't know about this like T-shirt connection that you had as somebody who was completely obsessed with them since I was 10 years old. I didn't realize, like, seeing that setup, what did that do anything for you? Did it feel like, wow, I haven't seen somebody do this in a long time, or besides the boardwalk, I guess?
But the thing is, I would see it because I'd go visit my mother and I'd see the store all the time. So I just would see her.
But I didn't know that. So, I mean,
no, but I just, no, but when you like, I just like it, those shirts have been a constant in my life for as long as I can remember. Just the idea of T-shirts, iron-ons, transfers, screen printing, all that stuff was just it was how my family made their money. It was what both of my parents ran this business, and now it's my mom does it. And so I was just around it all the time. So I saw your setup and I just completely understood it. I just knew everything about everything. I stared at that equipment for my entire life.
Yeah, I had to like look back on that and reflect, like, oh, to Tom, this was like, you know, it was normal to you, but at the same time, like, I thought this was a cool idea. This is fun. I didn't realize
amazing.
for
I
you.
thought your approach to it was so cool because you were doing old school transfers for Kurt Vile on the spot. And it made it really personal and really impressive. So I thought that was such an ingenious idea. Absolutely.
Well, thank you. I was trying to avoid that. It hit me so much, like, harder once I was hearing you talk about this in the book, how big, you know, I grew up, like, my dad worked for the post office, and before that he was at supermarket shopping bag. So my memories of being a kid and being at my dad's job or being at home and him talking about it, or we would do these USPS events, there'd be a bike race and we would go to support them. Like, it becomes such a huge part of your life when it is such a huge part of your parents' life, to the point where, like, you know, I love the post office to death. To this day, I've always defended them, and here I've heard you do it too, and it made me very happy. But you get attached to this thing that your parents do because it's their entire lives to you and to them, really. So hearing you talk about this t-shirt business, and I've never heard you talk about t-shirts, which you don't need to, of course, but I just found it fascinating. And you talking about the homework is hazardous to my health shirt, which like blew my mind because I immediately knew what the design was. And so, like, did you used to go there and just say, like, Mom, can I make a shirt today? Like, was this part of your identity? Were you trying to say, like, well, this one is really funny and I want people to think I'm funny?
Oh yeah, no, early on especially, it was just the greatest thing. You see something that was cool, and then you'd be like, can I get that one in a whatever color? And it would it was just the best. It'd be like, oh, we have, you know, Star Wars shirts coming in. Oh, yeah, I would love it. And just like having that as like a treat was so amazing. And so I understand your t-shirt enthusiasm, Perry. I get it.
Well, I appreciate that you do. And it was like one of the most joyous parts of the audiobook, which, if anybody has read the book and not the audiobook, I recommend it. I feel like it's an experience on its own if you're a fan of The Best Show or anything, you know, Double Thread or anything Tom does. Hearing you say it is it's just, I did it 4 times. I don't know.
Thank you. Look, that's very flattering.
Just to hear you be yourself completely, which has never changed the whole time I've been listening to The Best Show for 9 years now. Okay, I guess I have one more question, and then I guess we should go to audience questions probably soon. Jared, is that right? Okay, so
Jared doesn't know what's going on. Why would you ask him? He's half asleep.
He's listening to like a basketball game or something right now. We are on mute.
He's listening to Mike Adams demos.
I was thinking about the title, It Never Ends. And when you announced the title, like right away, it clicked with me, even if I didn't know the context. It's such a good phrase that can mean so much to anybody. But in a big way, I guess, is like, it never ends could be like all the stuff you've had to go through to get to this point or whatever. But really for me, and I would assume, like, you, just from how I know you or how well I know you, you don't really want it to end either, right? Like, I hope the struggle and the what I've been going through changes, but I don't want it to end, because then what do you know, you're not somebody, I imagine you're somebody who will write until you can't write anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. I would hope so. I want to try to write another thing, and I'm trying to think of something to write next, and I'm not going to write another memoir anytime soon, if ever, because I think I said those stories, unless maybe a ways down the road. But I do want to write some other stuff. I think I want to write like a detective thing or something. I'm not sure yet. We'll see. I'm weighing my options.
Do you feel like most of the time, as like a creative person, I don't know what to call artist, I'll call you an artist, I don't know, do you find that there's just not enough? I constantly am finding, like, the 20 things I want to do today, I can only do 2 of. And I just never want to sleep. I want to be up forever and live until I'm 250 years old.
Absolutely. No, you and I are cut from the same cloth in a lot of ways, because I just know there's so many things I'm never going to get anywhere near trying or doing. And it's kind of just how it is. Time is like the only commodity you really have, the only currency. There's so many things, and I'm not going to get to them. but I'm trying to just get as many done as I can. But I know it's not, it can't be about trying to do them all, because then that would just be inherently, everything would be futile. It would just be,
Right.
it has to be about the experience of doing each thing. And because it's not going to be a thing where here's the pile of things I did, and it's never going to look the way I would want it to look. So I just have to do what I can with each of these things, and then just try to move on to the next one and get as many in as I can.
Yeah, I almost think just having the idea of something that you didn't think of before creatively, that you would even want to potentially pursue one day, feels like super satisfying to me. Even that I came up with, oh, that would be a good idea. I may never do it, but that little bit keeps me going to try to come up with the next version of that or whatever. So, for me, it's just like in the beginning of this whole thing, I came up with an idea for a short film, and it was not something I ever did before. Was there anything that I don't know if you had time with work and stuff that you attempted to do that you never did before? Obviously you wrote a book, but
the book is the biggest one I ever did, because I had never written anything like this, and I just started. I was like, I guess I can do this, and I'll try. And then there were just points where I was like, is this literally the worst thing? Or am I happy with this? I just didn't know for a long time. Because you don't know. It's like, a lot of times you're the last one to know if you're doing a bad job with something, or just like, oh, you thought you were good at that. Oh, nobody told you. It's like, yeah, nobody told me. I wish somebody could have, but look, even if somebody told me I was doing a terrible job with it, I'd probably still keep going. So I don't know what that would do either, but.
Well, you also know that I think you're probably, if you're trying it, it's probably something you're going to at least be okay at, I would think.
Well, that's really not true at all. No, that's just, there's things that just like I have no aptitude for, and I want to do, but I'm bad at.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, it just is. And maybe I've narrowed it down to where I have figured more things out that can make it look like the image is different than what it feels like, but it feels like I could count on one hand the amount of things that I would feel like really strong at in terms of my ability, with like that I would have just like a good amount of confidence in. Everything else, it just feels like just terror combined with enthusiasm. So that's where I'm at with it. So, and I think a lot of people feel some version of that when they're trying things, especially things that they haven't done before or done frequently.
Oh, I feel most of the time when I try something new that it's probably not good. And so I ask 500 people to convince me to feel better about it or something.
Sure. No, I get that.
Anyway, okay, we have a couple questions. I think we need to get to the questions.
Yeah.
Am I missing a whole bunch here? Okay, I'm going to read the one that Jared just sent. Somebody sent him. I'm wondering if Tom can talk a bit about his sports writing. How long did he work in that field? How is that different from writing for shows or the memoir? Also, curious if he's seen the new John Mellencamp, Bruce Springsteen collab video.
I did not watch. Start with the second one first. I did not watch it yet. I will watch that tonight. I guess Bruce Springsteen and John Mellencamp did a song together that I don't know. I guess that's one for my friends in Indiana. They can be proud for the night that they've got their guy with New Jersey's guy. And yeah, but in terms of the sports writing thing, it requires such a specific thing to do that kind of sports writing, and I was writing for basketball magazines. It was there was writing for magazines like Slam, especially Slam, or Inside Stuff, or Hoop. I had to write in a way that was just fit the attitude of the magazine, just like writing slightly more aggressively with things and just making things slightly more in absolutes than maybe I thought that I would have written if nobody was giving me any guidelines for, because the beauty of those magazines were that they were magazines about the players first, teams second, and definitely who cares about coaches or anything like that. So it was really just a celebration of players and a celebration of youth and the new culture around the NBA. So, but I was trying to fit that attitude. And so it was a little challenging sometimes, but it was fun. I enjoyed it. And it was just fun to write things in such a punchy way.
Were you giving these people the business like you did to this Caulfield character that I was talking about earlier?
No, I did not. I was not really doing that. No, it really was. It was a very positive magazine. It had like a fan's attitude, which was what I really liked about it. And it had that fan's attitude like before there was like a true internet to have these fan communities for sports. Because at that point, the sports writing was just controlled by newspapers and Sports Illustrated. And to have this attitude and enthusiasm for a very specific part of the game. Slam, for example, like celebrated players getting tattoos and would put them on the cover with their ink, where a lot of magazines would airbrush that stuff out or not, definitely not highlight it. It's so easy to forget that 20 years ago, that was not the norm in sports. Was you just didn't see like an embracing of players having tattoos, for example. Like that was when they would call players thugs and just other loaded terms. So it was nice to write for that reason alone, because I was totally into that part of it.
Yeah, I guess that would be like who would put like Dennis Rodman in a dress on the cover or something like that. Like they were like that. I remember when he was starting to do that in public, and I was like, this is the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, it was Dennis Rodman to a certain degree, but Allen Iverson would have been like the face of that era, because he just was himself and he was true to himself. And if you didn't like it, then that's your problem, not his problem. And he kind of was the embodiment of what that magazine was about when I was writing for it.
Yeah, he was pretty big here, of course, in Philadelphia.
Yes. No, he should be. He's the greatest.
Yeah. I mean, he got everybody into basketball who wasn't into basketball in Philly for a period of time cared about basketball again.
Yeah.
Of course, we still do, but
but he's an icon, and it's exciting to have somebody like that be from your city.
Totally. So that one question about the basketball stuff was from Aaron. This one I have, when you and John come up with a really great idea on a Thursday or Friday, what are your days like until Tuesday? Do you find yourself randomly laughing about it, knowing you've got something funny in your pocket?
Yeah, no, it's fun when we have something up our sleeves and we just know there's a good one coming. Yeah, it's fun because then it's like our little secret for a few days. And then we do it for everybody. Then it's not ours anymore, but we'll come up with another one that'll be ours for a few days.
It probably feels good to let go of it and be done with it and be like, we did it, right? Like we.
Oh yeah. Oh my God, absolutely. To know that we pulled one off. At the end of it, John and I will just text. We'll just be like, that was really funny. That was great. You were funny saying this. That was so great. I almost cracked up when you said this other thing. It just, yeah, we have our own special connection with these things that it's so hard to convey, but it just is like the two of us sharing this like state almost that we enter.
And I love that you can congratulate each other and be like, that was good, that was good. But it's not like you're taking that and being like, cool, well, next time we do this thing, you don't do it again. So you have to, like, it's probably just as fulfilling every time for the past however many, years you've been doing it.
Yeah, no, it can be it's just a total gift. And I feel very lucky to have had that work out for me that way.
So we have one from Jen Hoffman, who is one of the people helping us host this event.
Thank you, Jen.
Or did Jen send it to me? Oh, it's from another participant. Okay. Either way, shout out to Jen. This person says, hi, Tom, fellow New Jersey Community College graduate and a 15-year Best Show listener here. It Never Ends made me feel seen in a way no other book has. Okay, I almost mispronounced Flaubert. Flaubert be damned. Another ex-Jersey friend here in Bloomington recently pointed out that the New Jersey attitude is best exemplified by The Sopranos, not when they're doing gangster stuff, but when they're waiting in line impatiently. What to you best represents the Jersey spirit?
The spirit of New Jersey to me is you're driving your car, you pull into a gas station, and you just tell them what you want. And it's nice. Legally, I cannot pump that gas. And the idea that you can do that in New Jersey, that to me is the true spirit of New Jersey. You cannot pump your own gas.
Yeah. My family had a place in Atlantic City we would always go to, and every single time without fail, they say, don't forget to get gas while you're in Jersey.
Yeah.
And it was like
cheaper also.
Well, yeah. It's
also cheaper. Well, I'm sure that's a tax thing that they were getting it on the other end, but when it's winter and you pull in and you say, fill it up with the 89, that's the greatest feeling ever.
I hate to admit it, but I agree. Okay, let's see more questions. Somebody was asking, here we go. Tom, on the Best Show, you no longer hang up on callers when they mention getting hung up on. Is it because of the show being recorded remotely or just letting an old bit fade away?
I think it's probably more the former. I don't have my finger on the button physically right now. We're going to figure something out to where I do, and then be careful what you wish for, my friend, because soon I'll be hanging up on all of you left and right with a fury that you've never heard.
I will say it's super satisfying to just hear you say, can you hang up on this guy? No matter what time of the period of the Best Show's existence, to hear you ask somebody to hang up on somebody that's like the most, I don't know, boss move. I don't know what I would call it, but yeah, I just love that. It's so great. Can you do this thing for me, which is kind of a mean thing?
Yeah,
in a lighthearted way.
I'm taking ownership of it, though. It is by asking for it. It's almost more cruel. It makes it seem more premeditated, but
also like more lighthearted in a way too. I think it's like a good balance of like, I don't hate you, but I really can't stand you right now.
Perry, I don't hate anybody.
Right. Nobody has calls.
One more question, Perry.
Okay. Oh, I thought I was about to bring Jared back on.
No, they're closing the library down.
Okay. Do you want? They're mostly kind of goofy. Okay, I like this one. James, a friend, James says, if you had to go shirtless in February, I can't say it. You can say that month.
February.
That one. If you could go shirtless in that month, the second one, Uh, or wear a Billy Joel concert t-shirt. Which do you choose? And
I would wear a Billy Joel concert. It's not even a question.
I was like, I'll just read the one that says Billy Joel and we'll figure it out together.
I'm not walking around shirtless anywhere. Oh,
what a
that's
good
even
last
the
question.
notion of that has me terrified.
Which era? Okay, if you could choose which of the Billy Joel shirts, which era would it be? That's all.
Oh, I'd probably go for him when he was in that band with the meat.
Oh, Attila?
Attila, yeah. I would wear an Attila shirt in a second.
Two-piece prog band, whatever.
Yes, a two-piece prog band from Long Island. Everybody loves that Long Island prog rock. Well, what if there's only two guys? Better. What if one of them has a weird mustache? I'm listening.
How many guitars would be in this band? Probably for a hard rock prog, maybe 0.
Yeah, I mean, look, there were no guitars. There were technically no guitars in Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Sure, okay.
And
Jared.
that's as proggy as it gets.
Hey, before we go, can I ask a quick question?
Oh, I wish I could say yes, Jared. Of course.
Well, since this is a library event, I was just wondering if either of you, if you want to, can talk about your experiences with libraries growing up, like really formative in any way, with, anything.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, libraries are so important. Like, libraries have been such an important part of so many times in my life. I've done so much writing at the library because it's a place where you can define it whatever you need to get from the place, you can get from the place. I've done so much research. I did research for the book at the library, just like looking through stuff of the time period, yearbooks and things like that. I would play Dungeons and Dragons at the library when I was 13. Libraries have been such a key part of my life. Reading the microfiche of old issues of Rolling Stone back when I was like 10 or 11, I was just obsessed with it. I can't speak more supportively of libraries. I fell in love with the Paul McCartney album Ram because that was one of the first albums I ever checked out of the library. It just it can't mean any more to me than they do. So this is it's special to do this for a library because they've been so meaningful to me.
Well, that's great to hear. I guess we already know what Perry does is he looks up old articles that Tom wrote.
Clearly, yes.
No, much more than that. I will just say, if you don't mind, the library for me was a place that I wasn't going to play football, with the boys on the, after school. If I wasn't in marching band or something, the library, I would rent out only books that I didn't need for school, drawing books, and I would obsess over them and be excited to return it so I could take out the next in the series of these how to draw books. And I was obsessed with the library. It was a very comforting place, to be at.
All I need to know about the Monroe Library is what's the code? What's the code for the men's room? What's the code? Do you have the key?
It's a giant. It's a copy of your book on a key. The key.
On a key. Well, look, if we can figure out a way to do that. If libraries across the country want to just drill holes in my book and attach the key to it, that would be the greatest honor I have ever received in my life. To be a bathroom key? Are you kidding? I would feel so special.
Well, the book is available. You can check it out. You can check it out digitally through the library too. And Tom, we pay the book company, or however that works. So Tom will get paid if you check it out digitally eventually.
It's just whatever people want to do. You want to read it, you want to listen to it, whatever works for you.
Well, Tom, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. And thank you, Perry.
Thank you.
Tom,
Yeah.
you've been a lot to me and so many other people. So we love the book, appreciate it. And yeah, this was fun. Thanks, everybody.
You're sweet to say that. I appreciate it. Thank you, Jared. Thank you, Jen. And thank you, Perry, for this outstanding conversation. You above and beyond. You did it, Perry.
Thank you.
Great job,
I
Perry.
appreciate it.
All right. Thanks. Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.